From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Across Montana, county election officials have been deciding whether to conduct this year's general election with all mail ballots or not. As MTN's Mike Dennison reports, most of them are choosing mail ballots, but voters will still have options to drop off their ballot in person.
It's been 3 weeks since Governor Steve Bullock gave Montana counties the choice of going to all-mail ballots for the November 3rd general election. Election officials asked for that power because of concerns over finding enough polling places and election judges during the coronavirus pandemic. And as of Tuesday, 40 of Montana's 56 counties have chosen mail ballots. That includes 7 of the 8 most populous counties, which covers Billings, Missoula, Bozeman, Great Falls, Butte, Helena, and Hamilton. Flathead County in Kalispell is the only large county to stick with polling places for November 3rd. A dozen other counties have made that same choice, most of them less populous rural counties. 2 counties will make their decisions next week: Jefferson, which includes Boulder and Whitehall, and Treasure County in eastern Montana. In the counties going to all mail, all registered voters will be getting their ballots the second week of October. And in the other counties, absentee ballots will be mailed out at the same time. Also, if your county sends you a ballot in the mail, that doesn't mean you have to mail it back. You can drop it off at the county election office, or in some counties, at ballot drop boxes. For example, in western Montana's Sanders County, officials will be placing drop boxes in towns across the county and at regular polling places on election day. And one last thing, regardless of what your county is doing on mail ballots, you can continue to register and vote right up to 8 p.m. on election day. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mike. And the deadline for counties to make a decision is Friday, September 4th. Green Party candidates will likely not appear on Montana ballots this fall. This after the U.S. Supreme Court declined today to take up an emergency petition filed by Secretary of State Corey Stapleton. That decision could have an impact on the competitive U.S. Senate race between Republican incumbent Senator Steve Daines and Democratic Governor Steve Bullock. Justice Elena Kagan issued the order on Tuesday without comment or recorded dissent. 6 new COVID-19 related deaths are being reported today and 136 new cases around the state of Montana. 5 of those deaths are here in Yellowstone County. Riverstone health officials say these cases were recorded in the last month and just now reported in the state's data. Some of these deaths are linked back to Yellowstone County Senior Living Facility, Canyon Creek Memory Care. Today's other death is in Stillwater County, bringing the state's total to 98 now. Active COVID-19 cases are inching closer to 1,600. There have been more than 6,600 confirmed cases and close to 5,000 recoveries. Today, Cascade County is reporting the highest spike in new cases. The Cascade County Sheriff is addressing the COVID outbreak at the County Detention Center. Sheriff Jesse Slaughter announced the detention center's first COVID-19 outbreak since cases expanded from just 1 case to 55. And 2 detention center employees as well as the 55 inmates. In response, medical staff isolated the symptomatic individual. Since then, the city-county health department has been on-site testing other inmates and staff.
Recently, before we had the outbreak at the facility, we actually upped them, anticipating that what we were seeing around everywhere, that there was another kind of spike. For example, when officers come in and they're inmates, we don't even allow the law enforcement officers in the facility anymore. The detention officers get them and bring them in. So we're trying to do whatever we can to limit outside access to the facility so we mitigate that.
Last week, Yellowstone County Sheriff Mike Linder reported that around 30 inmates had tested positive at the Yellowstone County Detention Center and are now being isolated. Tomorrow, freshman and sophomore students in Lockwood will start the first year in a brand new school building. While masks and shifted schedules weren't planned for before the pandemic, administrators and teachers are still excited to welcome the students back. Q2's Mitch Legge spoke with the principal for a crash course.
Contractors are putting the finishing touches on the all-new Lockwood High School that's scheduled to have its first group of students through the doors on Wednesday. And the new principal told me this afternoon that he thinks social distancing will be rather easy thanks to the newly constructed block schedule. Lockwood High School students have been split up into 3 groups of about 75 students apiece. Each group will come to school once a week. The rest of the week will be spent in online classes. In the newly constructed building that's designed to hold up to 700, there's plenty of room for students to be distanced from one another while in class. High school principal Gordon Klasna said there were some students who struggled with the all-online platform forced on students at the tail end of last year. Teachers have identified those students who struggled, so they can give extra help to them this year in the socially distanced classroom.
You know, it definitely wasn't the same same education that they were getting in the classroom, and so we do have some kids that we knew in the fall, in the spring when we did some of our grading, we were able to make some notations of kids that we are concerned about that would maybe need a little extra help and some intervention to get them back up to full grade level. And so we know who those kids are, and we'll be addressing their needs as we start off the school year.
Of the 230 Lockwood High School students, only 15 of them have opted to do only distance learning for this upcoming school year. In Lockwood, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Along with the new high school building, Klasna said some upgrades were done to the middle and elementary school buildings as well. And to see a virtual tour of the new school, you can visit lockwoodschool.org. Montana pilot was killed fighting the White River fire in Mount Hood, Oregon. The acting director of communications for the Northwest region of the Forest Service confirmed to MTN the pilot was the only one in that helicopter. The accident happened late yesterday as the helicopter was doing bucket water drops on the fire. The name of the pilot has not been released at this time. The Lone Star fire in Yellowstone National Park is actively burning and forcing some closures. That blaze is burning about 3 miles south of Old Faithful, is now estimated at 763 acres with no containment. The fire is spreading away from the Old Faithful area. All entrances to the park remain open, but some secondary roads and trails near Old Faithful are closed. The wildfire was started by lightning this past Saturday. And as those fires continue to burn, you can see the haze in the sky around here. Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire sharing how it affects our air quality.
Oh, it's not doing good for us. Let me show you. This is what it looks like outside right now. The visibility in Billings has gone from 6 miles per hour to, not miles per hour, but 6 miles to 7 miles. And so it's still pretty bad, but you can at least see a little bit better than we did about a half hour to an hour ago. Meanwhile, let me show you what's happening out there. As we move on, you can see that we do have this. We have air quality issues across much of southern Montana. And that stays with us. It's an air quality warning until about 3:45 tomorrow afternoon. Now, here in the Billings area, the air quality looks like this. It is now on to the unhealthy area for sensitive groups for Billings and also for Bernie and even Broadus. Bozeman has just been downgraded from unhealthy to good at this point in time, so things are improving a little bit over there. But for the Billings area, it is just very smoky. It looks like it's going to continue to stay that way. The good news here is we might see some spotty showers moving in the next few days. Could wash out some of the smoke and some of the ash out of the sky. We'll have more on that in a few more minutes.
Thank you, Bob. The Republican National Convention continues tonight here on Q2. A Billings woman is definitely the talk of the town today after making an appearance at the convention last night.
I had faith, and let me tell you, you have to have faith when your husband is a Marine and a police officer who was shot at on the job. And when you run a business, a little faith goes a long way. Faith in Jesus and faith in America. But I'm worried we have a generation.
Tanya Weinreis, who owns Mountain Mud Espresso, thanked President Trump for helping keep her business afloat during the pandemic. She got one of the first PPP loans from Yellowstone Bank. I talked to her this afternoon about the experience of appearing in the RNC.
From a lot of people after that was on last night.
Oh boy, yeah, I think my voicemail filled up in less than 3 minutes. And then probably a couple hundred emails, messages, positive and negative. We have people from all over the country wanting to buy coffee, and then we have people that are saying things that I can't repeat.
What was the main thing that you wanted to get across to the American public?
The one thing that hadn't been told before was my faith and, what it was like to go through that, just like every other American was facing trials.
And our coverage of the Republican National Convention begins at 8 tonight here on Q2. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News here on Q2, why researchers in Montana need your participation to help in the fight against the coronavirus. And in sports, Q2's Athlete of the Week hasn't had much football fortune. We'll show you why that's likely to change.